When there was an earthquake on December 7th, 1988, we were working in our area, the Berd. We felt like something terrible had happened, but we could never foresee the consequences. We then organized a brigade to help the earthquake victims. It was difficult to get there, since all the roads were blocked with vehicles which were sent to the site of the earthquake, the city of Spitak. All assistance was organized spontaneously, without a command center. Everything happened very chaotically. People survived all this cataclysm, this horror with dignity. People helped each other as much as they could. The whole world helped us. Yerkanyan is an architect in the administration office of the small town of Berd, which is located in the east of Armenia. During the earthquake in Spitak, his city was also partially destroyed. Fortunately, nobody in his hometown was killed, unlike in Spitak, where 25,000 people died. However, even to this day, the city is not fully recovered from the effects of the earthquake. Many damaged and unstable buildings still remain. In early June 2015, Mr. Yerkanyan arrived in Almaty with Mr. Harutyun Manucharyan, the mayor of the city of Berd, together with his colleagues from the city administrations of Tbilisi and Gori, Georgia, Municipality, Armenia, Ritter and Oskyamin, Kazakhstan, and Karakol and Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan. They attended a training workshop on disaster risk reduction in urban areas. These cities are participants of UNISDR-ECHO project, making cities in Central Asia and South Caucasus region resilient to disasters. Why is the issue of urban safety and risk reduction on the global agenda today? Now, over half of the world's population is living in urban areas, and by 2030, 7 out of 10 people will live in cities. Extreme and changing climates, earthquakes, and emergencies triggered by man-made hazards are putting increasing pressure on people and threatening the prosperity of cities. While catastrophes are not always preventable, the degree of destruction and devastation can be reduced. Central Asia and the Southern Caucasus are no exception, as the urban population is growing in the region. Demographically, more than 30% of the region's population is estimated to live below the poverty line. There are also significant migration processes which involve internal, rural, urban, and cross-border movements, leading to rapid growth of urban populations. In response to the challenges of growing urban risks, the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction, UNISDR, and the European Commission Humanitarian Aid and Civil Protection Department, ECHO, have formed a new partnership to strengthen the resilience of cities to disasters in Central Asia and the South Caucasus. Since Berd is located in a seismic zone, earthquakes are the city's most common natural threat, though landslides and floods happen occasionally. Most buildings in the city were built from the 1960s to the 1970s, and they no longer meet building codes. Multi-story panel buildings also do not meet today's construction standards. 50% of the buildings in the city don't meet today's construction standards. Therefore, the safety of people living in these buildings today is a matter of high importance for city authorities. How cities can increase their safety by reducing disaster risk is a very important question to resolve. So, to address the growing need of global disaster risk reduction, UNISDR initiated a global campaign in 2010 titled Making Cities Resilient. The campaign is fundamentally guided by a 10-point checklist and a methodological tool, Local Government Self-Assessment Tool. This checklist helps the cities and the local governments assess what the hazards are, what types of risks exist, which people are vulnerable, and how these risks and hazards can affect the people and economy of the cities. So, with this assessment, the campaign encourages the city's leadership to take action, to prepare risk-sensitive city development plans aiming at long-term resilience. I myself am a representative of the local executive body and closely linked to the natural and man-made disasters. We would like to include a 10-point checklist, Essentials for Making Cities Resilient, in the development plan of the territory of Ritter and to incorporate it into our existing safety data sheet. It is relevant to the efficiency of our work in emergencies. The local executive authorities face difficulties in dealing with various urban challenges in disaster risk reduction. Therefore, the project aims at creating local capacity for assessment of risk and vulnerabilities and developing plans of action for city resilience. Participants of the training in Almaty were trained about how to apply local government self-assessment tool and city disaster resilience scorecard to assess risk management situations in their own cities and how to incorporate disaster resilience in the city development plan using the experience of the other cities of the world. No one is immune from the risk of disasters due to the ongoing global climate change today. Therefore, we are participating in the project. We obtain knowledge on disaster risk reduction and city safety, which we plan to use for the good of our city to help prevent the risks of future disasters. We came here to get experience and knowledge that we can implement. We want to have a strategic plan for sustainability and strategy for disaster reduction in Karakol. The local executive authorities face the task of reducing the risk of disasters in their own cities. This involves periodic risk assessment, determining priorities in urban risk management, developing plans of action, and strengthening coordination among departments. For such a small and unsafe city as Berd, and for the people who carry out its security, it is essential to gain such knowledge of risk reduction. We know about the everyday risks, but the knowledge that we get during the project gives us a perspective on the more concrete steps in the future. Strong earthquakes, floods, and heavy rains are the main challenges for our city. The Municipal Development Agency is focusing on disaster risk reduction and sustainability of the city, as the agency employs a number of experts on these issues. Today, we do not have an adequate capability to respond to the risks at the municipal level of governments. Based on the mentioned threats, the city is trying to build a system to respond to crisis and pre-crisis situations. Today, we are trying to gain international experience, which is available at the UNISDR. Mechanisms of resilience have been developed, tested, and applied by different cities in the world, and it works. It is not necessary to come up with something new. We just have to replicate the available experience and adapt it to the local problems and mentality of the population to make it more applicable to the needs of our city. Until the end of the project, in December 2015, it will aid the city administration teams in the establishment of permanent local capacity for periodic multidisciplinary assessments of disaster risks and provide plans of action for reducing the city's vulnerability to natural and technological hazards.
I would also like to emphasize that the recently endorsed Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction, which is the global guidance framework for disaster risk reduction and resilience building for the next 15 years till 2030, highlights the importance of local level action, the role of local governments and municipalities in disaster risk reduction and resilience building. In that sense, this project in Central Asia and South Caucasus region is exemplary how to take the guidance of the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction into action. So we expect that these 8 cities will provide an example, not only for the region, but beyond the region, for the rest of the cities in the world who are also very active in this campaign, urban risk reduction.
The question of resilience in the context of urban growth recognizes that disaster risk reduction is not limited to preparedness and response, but is a key determinant for sustainable development. Cities are engines of national growth and dynamic in their governmental systems and capacities.